Welcome everybody to Stories of Grace. It's a new thing we're doing called Tales from the Other Side. You've heard all the spins on testimonies and people sharing them and giving them, and so today we are actually launching this new podcast, this new kind of understanding of people's tales from the other side, where they've been and where they are now. And so let me introduce you to my friend Landon Diggs. Landon, welcome to our new show, Stories of Grace.
Oh, thanks for allowing me to come on here and do this.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to have you. Now, full disclosure, you and I have known each other for a long time. Let's see, how old are you now?
I'm 21 now.
21, and I've known you for the better part of like 13 and a half years of that. Mm-hmm. So you were just a little boy when I met you. Mm-hmm. Just a little dude here at the church. Both of us go to the Grove. And so I've known you, the majority of your life, really. Honestly, I've watched you grow up. Look, I've seen you play football. I've seen you play basketball. And I loved watching you play football because you were just a headhunter. Like, you were a beast. But you weren't as big as you are now.
No.
No. We were kind of talking about this off camera, but how often do you work out?
Every single day.
Every day?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if I worked out, could I look like you?
Yeah, for sure. A few years.
A few years. Like past years. But in all seriousness, tell our folks, people that are listening, a little bit about you. Like, who is Landon Diggs?
Well, I'm 21. I go to the University of Tennessee. Right. I'm a chemical engineering major, which is not fun at all. Don't recommend it.
How did you pick chemical engineering?
My senior year of high school, I was sitting there and they told me you need a science or you're not going to graduate. Yeah. And I was like, I'll just take AP Chem. So I was good at chemistry. And I was like, I'll just major in chemical engineering, not anything to do with chemistry.
So by chance, you chose AP Chemistry. Now, just for the listeners out there that may not understand, that's like...
Yeah, it's like an upper level science. It's like a college course.
Yeah, that's a college course. Had you had chemistry before?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you jumped right into this, and all of a sudden, I mean, the lights closing on your high school career, you said, I think I want to be a chemical engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so now you're there, University of Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not fun at all.
No, it's struggling.
But I hear you make good grades.
No.
No?
I'll pass.
I've gotten bad info on that, but you're passing.
I pass, yeah.
You know, the good part about chemical engineering I found, and I have limited knowledge, meaning none, is that nobody asks chemical engineers what they made in college. They just say, here's chemicals, engineer it. Mm-hmm. So I think that you're going to do fine. Mm-hmm. I'm glad to have you. So now you're doing chemical engineering. Mm-hmm. What else is going on with Landon?
I got two sisters. I live with my mom and when I'm back home, but I live in Knoxville during the school year. And then,
what kind of, you got any hobbies?
I like to read, I guess. I've kind of got back into that.
That's cool.
Recently, which I hadn't read since I was about in 7th grade, but I enjoyed it then and kind of got back into it.
You know, one of the things I've found is like when people make you read, you hate it, right? Mm-hmm. If a teacher says, read this, it's like, I'm not reading that. Mm-hmm. But then when you get to choose to read what you want to read, it blossoms. Mm-hmm. That was my story anyways. But I think you left out one detail, and maybe you've done that on purpose because you don't want a lot of emails coming back in. But you happen to, on Friday nights, if we look real close on the sidelines, you happen to be not a coach, not a player anymore, but you happen to be one of the guys that wears the striped shirts.
Yeah.
You're a referee. Mm-hmm. For football. Mm-hmm. Have you had any tough games?
I mean, it's like people yell at you, but you know, I'm not gonna be perfect back there. Like, I'm gonna screw up.
But we expect you to be perfect.
Oh yeah,
100%. Because we've got the rule book, right? And so here's a question: have you ever heard me scream at you? Because there might have been a time.
Not personally you, but I've only been like on the field for a year. So.
Oh, okay. Well, there's always this year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just look for.
Well, I don't know. You don't have any kids playing football now, so
that don't matter. I never went to the football games for my kids. Anyways, I went to holler at you guys. But anyways, man, I love you very much, and you're one of my guys. Today we kick this whole new thing off, and here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna have a conversation. And we've sat in these chairs a lot and had conversations. We've never sat in these chairs and had a conversation when people were listening in. And you were so kind and giving enough to come in and kind of tell your story from the other side. It's your tale from the other side of where you were. Now, I've had kind of a little insight to that. You've shared some of that with our church body, but I wanted to take time with you today and really kind of go a little bit deeper, if you would. And let me just say to you and all those that are listening, I know when we start telling our own stories, you're vulnerable. And so I want you to know, man, you're going to inspire so many, and I'm thankful that you're willing to be vulnerable with us and all those that are listening. And, by the way, there might be somebody that's listening, and they go, man, I need to talk to a guy like Landon because I'm there, right? I'm in the middle of it. I haven't made it to the other side yet. And so we want to hear a little bit about that. So let me ask you this before we really fully get into your story. If you had to theme out your story, right, your tale from the other side, your story of grace, and sometimes when we think about themes, we think about, I theme out all my sermons. I theme out kind of the year. This year, we've challenged our church to have aggressive faith in moving forward and dreaming and doing all that stuff. But if you had to theme out where Landon's been and where you are now, what kind of theme would you give it?
I think I was somebody who would always look for kind of the easy way out of it instead of like genuinely facing it and facing where I was at and facing what I was going through. I'd always just look for the easy way out and like get around it.
So when you say like the facing it, the it would be like the hardship,
the facing like the season of life I was in. So like if I was in like a dark season, I was like struggling with where I was at in life.
Yeah,
I would run away basically.
Yeah. You're like, I can't do this anymore, and find something to run to. One of the things that in knowing your story and where we're about to go with this story, and after hearing you share with her, I would theme you out as the man on the run, right? It used to be an old song, and it's older than you, and it's probably older than me, but it was called "Man on the Run," and it was this idea of just going. And when I think about you, and I think about where you've been and where you are now, you really were running. I mean, you were getting it. And you're honest about that. I mean, when the darkness came, when the hardships of life came, whether you caused them or whether somebody else caused, whatever it was, like a lot of us, rather than facing it and manning up or womaning up or whatever, you just turn and run from it, right? Tell me a little bit about that. What was going on in Landon's life that you decided you needed? What were we running from? What were we working through?
So I guess the first time I ever really felt it, I was 17. I was in my senior year of high school, and it was about December, and I started to feel like depressed and like sad, like just living in it for the first time. And like,
so you had never felt that way before, ever?
No, I'd been really sheltered, I guess, in a sense, because I'd grown up in church. I was always busy. I didn't really have time to like think about myself. And at this point in my life, I'd been partying a little bit in high school and drinking. And I'd gotten grounded. And that
so let's just pause that just a second, because you're getting vulnerable. We're not letting the cat out of the bag. Like, parents know this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I mean, I didn't know if we need to beep that out. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
All right. So you're 17 in high school. A lot of our same stories. We're doing stuff behind the scenes that our parents don't really know. You've been in church. Yeah. I mean, I've seen you sitting there. Yeah, I think one of the things you told me one time is and maybe you'll get to this is where you could come to church, keep your head down the whole time, and it was just like nothing affected you. Like you were so conditioned, right? All right, so 17, hanging out, you're doing your thing like so many people do. Like I have my stories, right? Hope my mom's not listening, but I do have my stories. And then at 17, you get caught.
Yeah, I think that was the first time like I was grounded, so I couldn't really do nothing. Which I deserved to be grounded. Obviously, I was doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing at 17.
Yeah.
And so when I got grounded, I guess like that was the first time I'd been away from a lot of stuff, and I wasn't busy. Like, it was the first time I really had the opportunity to sit there and like be in my own head and like really experience those feelings that I was feeling, and like kind of like be like, oh, I'm alone, I'm lonely. I feel like.
Do you think those feelings of being alone were always there, or was it because you were grounded?
I think it was more or less that I was like always busy and I never really was alone. Like at the time in high school, it was sports and stuff like that kept me busy and grounded, and I was always with people.
Yeah.
And then when I'd come home, I'd probably have like 2 or 3 hours of my day and then go to bed.
Let me ask you a question, because we're not trying to meddle or, call into question anybody's parenting routines or any of that kind of stuff, but you've got a unique perspective, because most people that are going to come sit in that chair or share their story are probably going to be older than you, right? I'm older than you, obviously. I'm raising kids that are just a little bit younger than you. What do you think, coming fresh out of this, let's just pause for just a second. I know this isn't your story, and kind of putting you on the spot. You just highlighted something I think that affects so many kids that parents don't realize, is we create this life for them out of a good place. Like, I want my kids to be involved in this, I want my kids to be involved in that. And you've heard, I know you've probably heard, parents that say, I'd rather my kids be involved in sports than to be in trouble, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's true. But I do think that sometimes we're so jam-packed in our scheduling, even for our kids, that it affects them. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I'd say so. I guess I was so busy to the point where I never really had time to like think about anything. Like,
Wow.
like thinking back to myself at 17, I didn't know what feelings were. I didn't even know what to talk about.
Wow.
Like, it was just something I didn't even focus on. I didn't worry about it. I had no clue what they were.
You think anybody ever asked you how you felt at 17?
No, not at all. I don't think anybody really asked me how I felt until probably 2 years after that, almost.
Really? About 19? And by then, it's full-blown. I mean, you're struggling.
Yeah.
I mean, you're at 19, you're full-blown, like, having all kinds of feelings. Yeah. You think that some of us are just conditioned to not share feelings?
I think we're afraid about. I think, and even like with me doing this, like, there's that back thought in my head that's like trying to like, oh, you're gonna get judged, or like something like that. We're afraid of what other people are gonna think of us.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not even that. Like, that just silences you. If like you can't talk about it, you never know. Like, maybe you'll touch somebody else, or maybe you'll meet somebody that can help you.
Yeah, because there's so many people that are struggling. Like, here's a question: at age 17, right? Because we have, it's so interesting, right? I mean, I can talk about space all day long and what I think I would do if I got launched up in one of those Amazon rockets or whatever it might be, or maybe I don't have Amazon, probably a Temu rocket, but it's one thing to speculate; it's another thing to be there and to come back and report. And you're coming back and reporting, where a lot of us parents are speculating. At 17, you're not ready to share, but you don't know how to share. You haven't even given yourself time to even have feelings. But had you opened up, who would you have shared those feelings with, you think?
I don't know. I don't think I'm probably a friend, but at that point, I think I would have just hated it no matter what.
Yeah.
I don't think there was anything in me. Like, I remember when fast forward on, when I really got like super depressed and super down, like, I still didn't share it till at least a few months in.
Yeah.
And that's because one of them finally asked me, it's like, have you been doing okay?
One of your friends did.
Yeah.
One of the people that you're in your group, they noticed and they asked, and that was awesome. So let's kind of just think about that. At 17, you experienced your first bout of what some would call depression, some would call the funk, the blues, whatever. You're not qualified to deal with it, but you're silenced by either your own pride, your own fear, or no outlet anyways to talk to, afraid of being judged. So you rock on, right? That goes on for how long? It was about a month that I sat in that, and then it kind of like started fading. I got busy again, got back into sport, like more sports and stuff. School started back up again. It was probably around Christmas break time. And it started going and going and going. And that year was the year we made the state tournament basketball. And then, dude, hey, can I just say this? I loved watching you play basketball. But, dude, you were a bully. You were a bad dude. I always knew when they put Landon Diggs in, somebody on the other team was taking a bruise home. Like, they're going to take that home. Whether it was a knee into the back of the hamstring or,
Yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't on purpose.
Yeah, I know.
But you were the enforcer. Like, you were the Roane County, Kingston, Draymond Green.
Yeah, just like a lot less like skill and ability. Probably
not as loud.
Yeah, no, I was pretty quiet.
Yeah, you were, but you were a pleasure to watch. But anyways, all right. So you get busy. Your outlet during this time, when you're in this moment where it starts getting dark, is sports and busyness. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So now you're back into basketball. Then what happens? So you're coming out of it. You don't have time to think about it again. You repress all that. Boom. You're moving.
And then I got out of basketball, and then like anxiety starts like eating at me, and I start feeling that way again. And I think it was really the first time that I felt like God was like trying to like, hey, talk to me, like, give me a shot.
Were you in high school still, or?
Yeah, I was 18 at this point, so it was like towards the end of my senior year. It's probably like April of my senior year, so April of 2021.
Okay.
And this is the first time I really felt God like kind of like trying to like maybe get me to like talk to Him for the first time. And I'd been in church all my life, but I never had like an intimate relationship with God. Like you wouldn't catch me praying at night. You wouldn't catch me. I could tell you the last time I read my Bible at that point. I couldn't have told you. It'd probably years and years before then. I had no like relationship with God. I wasn't seeking God. I didn't desire a relationship with God. I didn't feel like I needed one. I guess I feel like I was lukewarm. I felt like Sundays were enough for me.
Yeah, I mean,
even though on Sunday I'd be sitting like this.
Yeah, well, I always thought you were praying. So, but and really, kind of, I mean, what you're kind of saying too is really Sunday was the only time you had.
Yeah.
I mean, you were staying busy. That was your kind of cover. So, you start going. You're having some anxiety. What was that anxiety like? What did it feel like for Landon?
It was. My heart was always racing. I couldn't eat. I didn't really sleep. I ended up losing a lot of weight. I think I lost 20-ish pounds from just, I would eat at school because it was in front of people, and then I wouldn't really eat at home. And I lost a lot of weight at that time. I probably went from like 225 to 205 or something. I don't know the exact number, but it was a lot of weight.
Anxiety is one of those things where I think a lot of people have a hard time describing it, Obviously, people can say, yeah, I get anxious from time to time, but anxiety is something that it's like it doesn't leave you, and it has such a profound effect on you. And again, all right, so 17, we're trapped with our feelings, and we don't know who to share, but anxiety, it compounds it, because now not only am I afraid, but now I'm anxious about it. And so now you went from sitting with your feelings, now you're physically being affected, right? Still, nobody knows?
Nobody knows.
Nobody has a clue. All right, so we rocking on. What's going on now?
Yeah, I ended up getting busy again. I started working that summer, and I worked full-time pretty much. I was doing about 8 hours a day, and then I'd work a little bit on the weekends. So I was busy all summer, and I just kind of kept out of it, around my friends all the time. So I was never really alone again.
Yeah.
And so I was able to keep out of it. And
were you afraid of being alone?
Yeah, I think I was, and like I don't think like at that point in my life, obviously I didn't have any relationship with God. I never like accepted the fact that I'm never alone. Like no matter where I'm at in life, God's always with me. It's like I just was so unaware of it because of my neglect of a relationship with God. I just didn't really understand it.
So you're rocking on, you're going, you're working, you're staying busy. Then what happens?
I got into fall of my first year of college, my first semester, and I got felt alone. And that was the first time like the depression really got like bad.
When you felt alone?
Yeah, my friends had kind of like went off. We were all kind of busy, like not really seeing each other. It was more of like I'm alone and I'm busy.
Yeah, like now it's evident you're alone. Everybody's split up. Everybody's, you have this cocoon around you for 18 years.
Yeah.
Same people, same thing, same. You know what everybody's going to do on the weekends. Even when you're hurting and in pain, at least you can go and kind of medicate with that because that becomes your medicine. You're not alone anymore.
Yeah.
They all do their thing. Now, I'm physically affected. I got anxiety. I'm fearful. And now I really am alone, right? And so you're 19-ish, 18, 19, starting into college, which is scary. I mean, you've never been there before.
Yeah, it was a big transition, I guess. Even though I was at Roan State at the time, it was a big transition, I would say.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I think anybody goes through a transition, whether you start a new job or a new relationship or college. I mean, that's a hard time for people. And so you get there, and now you start really sinking.
Yeah, this was around the first time I'd ever like felt the feeling of like suicide, and like the thoughts of suicide were like creeping in. And I'd like gotten to the point where I hated myself, and I hated every single aspect about myself. It wasn't just, it was how I looked, who I was as a person, every single thing about me. I just hated it, and but I didn't do anything to change it. I sat in there for I sat in it for around a month, I would say, before like I tried to start making some changes in my life. But
let's talk about that for just a minute, because you said suicide.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of people, is such a bad word.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're afraid to even say it.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been going to this church long enough. There's words that the world stays or community stays away from. People kind of whisper, but I'm not afraid to share them. I'm afraid to talk about them. I think that's where the victory comes. Is like we got to empower people to go, man, this is me.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be so many people that's going to hear this story and say, Landon. Like they know you. Like you're the bully on the basketball court. You're the headhunter on the football team. You're a good-looking dude. You come from good stock. You've been around. You got a bunch of friends. But you know what I mean? How would you describe? Like I understand you get to a place to where you're everything's stripped from you, right? But you have no self-worth. You hate yourself. You hate your life. You feel like you're stuck. Anxiety's at a peak. Depression's at a peak for you. How did Landon feel in that moment?
It's the first time like I was gonna take my life. I kind of walked back and I went down. And I grabbed the gun and I sat down, and I just sat there, and it was like everything stopped and everything froze, and I was just numb.
Wow.
There was just like nothing running through my head. It was empty.
Just vacant.
Yeah. I was like, right prior to it, I was bawling my eyes out, but in that moment, everything just froze, and it's just like there's nothing. I didn't have a thought rolling through my head.
Wow.
And I didn't do it, obviously, but.
And I'm glad you didn't.
But at the time, it's just like it's so dark. Like every day for probably an 8 month span, it was. I couldn't get behind. I'd have to drive to class or drive to work, and like I live off Longville, going straight towards Kingston. Get that turn every single day. I thought about going straight and just not turning and just shooting my truck up and just into the woods.
Just done.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're so vulnerable, in sharing this story, right? Even the depths of that darkness, a lot of people keep secret, and there's power in sharing that, because I don't know about you, but I really feel like from this, what comes out of here, there's people that have felt that. A lot of people say, I can't imagine. A lot of people say, I can't imagine doing this, doing that, whatever. And if you're a family on the other side and you've experienced that with a loved one, you can't imagine. But I think the real person that can't imagine is the person that's living it, because that gets so personal and deep, and you're there, and you're having these conversations with yourself, like, I'll just drive my car off into the woods. How do you think you got there? Like, what was it that led to that? You kind of shared with me one time, like you got all these improvements. Like, we'll get to that, because you're a stud, dude. Like, you're so awesome. But you got arms bigger than my head, and my head's big. So somebody said something to you one time that really kind of spun you out about dating.
Yeah, I just part of me, I didn't look good enough to date, and and I thought about it, and I guess I remember I sat there and looked at myself in the mirror, and it's like, no, that ain't wrong. I'd never really cared about my appearance. It's like almost like I never really cared about my feelings. Like I didn't care about any of that stuff. I was just like,
you were just living.
Yeah, I was just living, and I never really thought about it until that point. I was 17. I never thought about feelings. I never thought about my appearance till that point, and just. It's like, oh.
What's crazy is I think a lot of times people think that's only a female thing. Like, only girls care about how they look. And, girls get kind of a bad rap, I think, sometimes, because they're like, well, you're on this side, trying to get people's attention. I think there's a deeper conversation that we need to have, which is why do you feel like you need that attention? But I think you're scratching the surface of that is because there's probably a bunch of individuals that felt like they weren't pretty enough, good enough, worthy enough, whatever. And, rather than driving their truck off into the woods, they're just saying, somebody, anybody, anonymous, somebody hit the heart on here, give me a thumbs up, like button, whatever. But what you've done today is share and kind of blow the top off this, which we know, but you're blowing the top off this, which is, it's not just a female thing. Our dudes are dealing with this too. The guys struggle with this. Body image, worth, all that stuff, right? And so there he is, struggling, all right? And that's hard for our listeners to hear, man, but it's true. It's your story. These are tales of from the other side. These are stories of grace. So in that 8-month period, right, still not sharing it. Yeah, and you're literally torturing yourself. You're in a battle.
Yeah.
So, what happened? How did you come out?
I'd get to May, and I guess from probably started around December of that year into May, I started drinking and partying a lot. Okay. And that was kind of my escape. It was like an unhealthy coping mechanism, and I had I was always just focused on the weekend. I was like, I just wanted to go party and forget about everything. And I could forget about everything for a day or two, and in that time span, I really wasn't doing anything else. And there were some more moments where I'd gotten really close to taking my life again, and I tried to get away from it, and I just kept running from it. And I eventually, I'd started working out, and I saw improvements, so I didn't really hate myself physically anymore, but I still hated who I was as a person, and felt like I'd never be good enough for anyone, no matter if it was a relationship, friendship, for anybody in my life, family. I felt like I'd never be good enough.
Wow. And what's crazy is because you come from a great family. Like you got all kinds of family around you, and your sisters. I mean, you got a good. It's not like you don't have a support system,
Yeah.
And even in that, I think what you explain is how real the enemy is. Even when you have good folks around you, have a support system, he can really tempt you into believing that you're nothing, and you'll never be nothing. You never were nothing, and you cannot recover from this, right? Yeah. And when we start hearing things like that, right, we're either going to be motivated to prove somebody wrong, or we're going to be motivated just to end. I can't live in this world. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you chose to run. I told you before, it's kind of like the prodigal son. You didn't ask for your inheritance, but you're like, I got to go do something else. So you run. You find yourself kind of in that pig pen of life. You're feeding the hogs, bro. You're just living for the weekend, right, where you can clock out. Yep. And that works for a minute. Yeah. Then what happened?
So it was May of 2022 now, and I remember life just kept going wrong, and it just kept going wrong. And I was down at the beach. I'd been partying for about 2 days at this point. We were 2 days into the trip, and something else had went wrong. And I was just like, I drove back and left the club we were at, and I sat in my truck. I was by myself, and I was alone. And throughout this time, I'd tried to talk to God, I guess, and pray, and I just like, God, why won't you take this away? I want to be happy. I just want to be happy. That's all I would ever pray. And I was like, please take it away. And then in that moment, I sat in my truck and I said, God, I'm effing done with you.
Oh, wow.
Go effing pick on somebody else.
Wow.
And that was what I said to him, and I just...
And that was real, and that was raw. I think sometimes people want to make our stories into Hallmark moments, and they're not. Job had moments like that, Abraham, David. I mean, we all have moments. So you had a real raw moment right then. What happened in that moment?
God went and picked on somebody else, I guess. I just went on with my life. There was no thought of God. I didn't go to church. I was completely out of church at this point.
Are you mad at God?
Yeah, I was angry. I was just bitter, and I was just like, I knew I accept like God can change my life, and could have changed it, and He could have took it away, and He wasn't doing it. So I was just, at the time, I was just so angry. And
because
like,
obviously, if He's not taking it away, then He don't care about you.
Yeah, I mean, like it. Yeah, that's what I felt.
That's
like.
What you felt. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I've almost taken my life. I've wanted to every single day for 8 months now, and I've had two or three really, really close moments where I almost did it. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm not going to be able to. And I would call out to God, like, I don't think I can go much longer. And so I did that and forgot about it. I forgot I even did it for a long time. Like, I just kind of just ignored it.
Forgot you had that conversation.
Yeah, I just kind of sat there. And, I mean, I kind of in the back of my head, I knew. But I just went partied. And the next 7 months are a blur. Basically, I don't really remember much. I was drinking all the time. I was drinking probably 5-6 nights a week, and some of them I was just drinking alone. Like, I'd be hanging out, but I'd be the only one drinking. And
just running from it, man.
Yeah, running from everything.
I think what I love about you and what I love about your story is it's so real. Like, this is real. Like, this isn't, we're not cleaning this up for a video. We're not cleaning this up because we're afraid somebody might say something. Mm-hmm. This is real. Demons, the devil, I mean, they stare into our souls and wreak havoc. And the thing that's so powerful is when people hear this, if they've known you, like I've known you, at any moment in that 8 months leading up to that 7 months and that 7 months on, had you done something to yourself or had something happen to you, we would all have been shocked. We would have never known. We'd have never known the pain. We'd never known the hurt. We'd have never known anything. We'd have just said, man, that's sad. He's a 19-year-old boy that had so much promise. But nobody would have ever really been able to connect with how deep the darkness was for you, right? And I think probably, Landon, the truth is there are adults, there are 17-year-old teenagers, there's 16-year-old girls, there's 21-year-old males. I don't know. There's no number you can put on it that right now, in this moment, while you're talking backwards, like you're going back, you're bringing this up to today, they're right where you were. They're right in, and we don't know. We pass them at Walmart. We talk to them on the phone. We hang out with them at ball games because I saw you. I mean, there was during that time period. It wasn't like I never saw you. I saw you. Yeah. I didn't know. I might have even said, "What's up?" You might have said, "What's up?" Had no clue, right? And I hope that if they're hearing us today, or if they're parents or grandparents or whatever, they're going to say, "Hey, get this to them. Let them hear this," because after that 7 months of you going, what happened? Because we start coming out on the other side now.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Slowly, but so I got to about December at that point, and basically at that point I was back in them same shoes. I was depressed again, and I didn't really want to be here. It's the first time that thought had came back since that night I turned my back on God, and the thought of ending it, didn't want to be here. So unhappy with where I was at in life, had nothing more than just the party, drinking, just doing all that stuff. That was all I had. I had nothing else going for me in life. And about a month later, things just like, I don't know, I guess like the thought of God kind of got brought back into my head. I ended up meeting a girl, and I tried to run from it at first. I was like, I was like, I don't want a relationship or nothing. I didn't tell her that, but that's what I was telling myself at the time. I was like, I won't even go for it. And ended up just going for it. And I guess I screwed up because I ran from my pain. I became somebody who was jealous, bitter, angry, just convinced that the world was out to get me. Yeah. And I hurt her, and I was terrible to her. I was just angry, jealous, suspicious all the time, convinced, like, just accusing her stuff that she wasn't, and just I was just mean and angry.
I mean, I think you can't be living in that dark world, for all those months and even daily, and have a light source in relationship. You're going to be dark. Yeah. All those when you walk in the flesh, and I'm not saying that you were intentionally walking in the flesh, but that's where you were. All those pride of life and lust of the flesh come out. And so that's what she got out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how'd that go?
Well, so we sat down and she kind of ended it with me and just told me to step back and just, no, I can't do this right now. But the thing that like she kind of said was like, I'm just gonna pray about it. And I was sitting there, it's like, I ain't prayed in 11 months. Like, she was looking for somebody who's gonna serve God with her and stuff like that. And
she's gonna pray about the relationship.
Yeah, and she was searching for somebody who's gonna serve God with her, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that. No, I hadn't been to church in 10 months. I'd turn my back on God.
But you could fall right back in, right?
Yeah. I'll just be new again.
Just go to church if that's what you want.
I started praying about it, and I just couldn't do it. I was like, it was like a war in my mind almost. I was so like, God, I felt like God was like, oh, do this. And it's like, no, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to deal with this. I want to get out of here. I want to run. And eventually I was even worse and just kept getting worse and kept getting mean and kept being bitter and kept being jealous. And she ended things with me like fully and just was done with me. And I was like, all right. And I told her, I was like, oh, I'll change. And I'll never forget what she said to me. She's like, you'll never change until you get back in church, you start praying, and really focus on your relationship with God.
Wow.
And I'd already texted you that Monday.
Yeah.
Before that happened, I was like, hey, I need to meet. I was going to come in here and like talk and but then she said that, and that didn't click at me immediately. My first reaction was to go get drunk. I was going to go to the liquor store, buy me a bottle of alcohol, and just drink and forget about it. That was my first reaction in that moment. I mean,
that's what you've been doing, right?
And I sat there and I thought about it for a long time. And I ended up not drinking that night. And I was like, okay. So I walk into your office that Monday. A year from the day I turned my back on God.
And you know what's interesting? Let me pause that just right there, because before that, we had met like the year before.
Yeah, we hadn't met in a year.
Yeah, we hadn't met in a year. You were vulnerable with me then. You were, and I knew, and you knew that you were in this hard space. I knew that. And we had talked on the phone a couple times. You called me from that beach trip. You called me from there.
Yeah.
You know,
the day after I turned my back on God, I called you.
Yeah, and you know, I was just so impressed because then I didn't hear from you. I've always told people if I don't hear from them after I counsel with them, I figure they're fixed. I think it helps my heart, even though I know that's not true. But then you text me. And it's crazy because, you know, a couple of things I want people to hear in your story right here. I just want to pause is you're very vulnerable about the fact that you turned your back on God, that you cursed God in you know, your own way. And, you know, there's a lot of people carrying this big burden of like, well, I said this to God, or I was mean to God, or I cursed God, or whatever. I can never, you know, have a relationship with him. And that's just simply not true. You talk to him out of a place of pain. And I've told you, as a dad, I've learned more about who God is as a father than I have anything else, right? Now, my kids, as far as I know, have not cursed me. I'm sure under their breath they have, right? I'm sure there's been a couple times they wish I would go stand on the yellow line on the road and play, and a Mack truck would come over the hill. There's those moments. But there has been moments where my own children, my own sons or my daughter, have told me how wrong I was for me or not doing something for them. You never, I've heard that, you never get me whatever. And you know what? This is a beautiful part about who God is. He's long-suffering. And just because you turn to run from him, he never turns to run from you. You know, if the average person's not listening, what they'll miss is during this, God walks this beautiful woman into your life, right? And she's not going to be the woman that you marry as of now, but you and I both know she had a purpose in your life. And through her, God speaks to you, right? You spoke to him last, but he speaks to you first. That's awesome, right? And there's some people he's trying to speak to right now. They feel like they've gone too far, but you can never outrun him, right? So you don't go to the liquor store. You go home and think, and she says, Landon, listen, you need to focus on you and your relationship with Christ. Get in church, start praying. You text me. Then what happens?
So texted you before that happened, and then so I come in Monday, and it was a year to the exact day.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, I had to look back at our text when I texted to call you. It's like, oh wait, it was May 22nd, and so it's a year. I walk in May 22nd, and I just I think I came in here. I was like, I met this girl. I screwed up real bad.
You did.
I don't trust God. I don't trust anyone in my life.
Yeah.
I feel like God's pushed me to do this. I don't want to do that. I want to just run. I don't know what to do. And slowly started meeting with you again, and I guess working towards having that relationship with God. And then the whole time, I'm so new to this. I was doubting everything. Did not trust God. Praying all the time. It's like, God, what do I do next? What now? I don't see this. I can't. I don't know.
You know what? It's crazy too, because I think some people make that complicated, and we weren't in here building rockets. When we meet, we just talked.
Yeah.
And let you kind of throw up and kind of process. And it was interesting because as you would talk, and I would listen, and maybe we go back and forth on some things. After that was when God really started. You were vulnerable again. It's like you were cultivating that faithfulness. We were removing the scabs, the scar tissue, just by talking, and God starts speaking to you again. And so you were off balance. You didn't. I remember, man. You were nervous. You were struggling. You were kind of gun shy, if you will.
Yeah.
Because you've already been down this road before. The faith part, the religious part, the going to church part, that didn't work out for you.
No.
You've gone over here on this other side, and it gets really, 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 really dark. You just had a person that you really cared about. I know that. I mean, you've talked very, intimate about just how you are. And people don't know about Landon because you're quiet most of the time, but you have this huge heart. Yeah, you give yourself, and you're crushed. But it was a different kind of crushed.
Yeah.
You weren't crushed in the flesh. You were crushed in spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then God starts working. And you went to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
So for the first time in probably, I could tell you, it was probably 8-10 years that I actually started reading my Bible. I was in church every Sunday. I was not sleeping in church, but I wasn't sitting like this, just staring at the ground at church. I was paying attention.
You were engaged.
And I was learning, and I was growing some. Same time, I still had a spirit of doubt in me, and I was I still didn't trust God. I wouldn't, you could have all this, I'd give God anything else, but I wouldn't give him that aspect of my life almost. I wanted control. I had to be in control of it. I couldn't just submit myself to God.
Yeah.
And so we got to the end of the summer, and just things ended up just not working out. And even though I had worked on myself, I still wasn't probably who I needed to be yet. And ended up going up to UT, and my old life's just sitting there right in front of me again. Everything I used to be, and it's just it's so easy now.
It's on steroids at that point, right? Because you're up there on the strip. I mean, you can blend in. There's thousands of Landons. You can jump right back in it, baby.
And I never quit praying, but I'd fallen into a 50-50 relationship, and then that 50-50 turned 75 bad, 25 praying, and I'd always talk to God and be ask him what to do and stuff, but wasn't reading my Bible anymore. That fall semester, I think I went to church one time, and that was only because I told the girl who said that to me that I would go. It's the only reason I went.
Was she there?
I ended up seeing her one day, but
yeah,
it just, other than that, I wouldn't go. I didn't want to. Yeah. I was coping again with all the bad. I was getting those temporary happiness. I wasn't searching for that. I wasn't desiring God, because the Bible says, delight yourself in the Lord. And the promise that God gives is joy.
Yeah.
Joy in him.
Yeah.
And I wasn't doing that. I was just searching for that temporary feeling.
Well, yeah, I think you and me and everybody else, we do this sometimes, is we think, okay, if I delight myself in the Lord, then that means he's going to give me this, he's going to give me this, he's going to give me this, right? So if God's okay with where you are now, then he'll work out this relationship, or he'll work out this job, or he'll work out this other stuff. And unfortunately, God had you coming back at a place where it's no, Landon, it's me and nothing else.
No. Right?
But you were trying to kind of go, if I understand this correctly, you were trying to go, yeah, I want God, plus I want him to put all this stuff together, and then I'll really be happy. And then you prayed a very powerful prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got into December, and I knew I was just messing up, and I knew I wasn't what I was supposed to be. I was everything I said I wasn't anymore.
Right.
And I said, God, take it all away and put eyes back on you.
Take it all away.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you come in and you told me to pray this prayer.
Yeah.
God, take it all away and get my eyes back on you.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't tell you at the time. I'm telling you now on camera. That was the dumbest prayer you could have ever prayed.
Yeah.
That's like the man that prays for patience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then he
Yeah.
gives them triplets.
Yeah.
And sorry, but you pray, God, take it all away. Let me ask you a question. Did he?
He took the only good thing.
Took the only good thing. Yeah, the one thing you were hanging on to, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think, honestly, Landon, I think sometimes you're too hard on yourself. I think, really, you were willing to give most of it away. You're probably at an 85% rate of giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
There was about 15% you were trying to hang just a little bit onto, and it wasn't even in a bad way. You thought it was going to be good.
Yeah.
And he took it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what happened?
Then I was just left with all the bad to sort out.
Shoot.
And it took me a while to sort it out. And I just felt I was like more into it. I'd go to church on Sunday and I'd pray still, and I was trying to get back and reading my Bible and trying to grow some, but just could never get like in it all the way. I was still 50-50, and that's how I lived.
Yeah. All the things that pulled on you that wanted to keep you back in that pig pen.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you're going to church, it's still pulling. Now, you may not be giving into it like you were.
Yeah.
But it's still pulling.
Yeah.
Right? And I think this is one of those moments where we go, okay, I'm coming out on the other side. When you finally started facing this stuff and not running and not indulging in whatever life threw your way, what was that like? How'd you do it?
Well, I made some stupid decisions, and
Who hadn't, right?
Yeah, I was drunk, and I made some phone calls I shouldn't have made, and I just kind of sat there, and I realized that I was like, I'm everything I said I wasn't gonna be. And I remember I prayed, and I sat there, and I was like, God, I've ruined everything, and I'm not who I should have been, and I don't know what to do. I walked into church Sunday. And I was here, actually. Because when I'm up in Knoxville, I don't go here.
Yeah, you go to another place when you're up there. Yeah, and it's a great
closer.
church, too.
But so I walk in here, and you preached on if. And the verse of that day was, like the main point was Revelation 3:20. And I stand at the door, and I knock. And if you let me come in, I'll dine with you and you with me.
Yep.
And in that moment, I was like, well, I know what to do. It was kind of like I prayed to know what to do, and that's what I had to let him in, and I had to let him have everything, and I had to lay it down and just fully submit myself. And like I couldn't hang on to anything. Just like, you got it.
Submit it all. So, you say that so easy, like now. That is so hard. Because what the person on the other end of this microphone doesn't realize, that was a 3-year journey. That was a 4-year journey to get you to full submission. Yeah. A lot of tears, a lot of pain, a lot of dark moments, right? And then a simple one verse revelation, behold, I stand at the door and knock. It's almost as if God's standing, he's at Lana's door. I've told people, since you started, you used to sit in church with your head down. And now when I see you, when you're in town and you're able to join us on Sunday morning, you sit there. I always know where you are because you look like a middle linebacker sitting there. Like your elbows are up, you're leaning forward, your eyes are engaged. You're one of those people that when we sit and talk, you'll remind me of something that I said because you eat it, like you regurgitate it. And so on that day, God spoke to you and said, Landon, I love you. I care for you. I've always been here. I'm at the door. He knocks, and you submit, right? How's it been since that day?
For the first time in 3 years, I'm at peace.
Daggone.
It's 4 years now almost.
Yeah.
But I have peace.
Yeah.
There's no depression. There's no anxiety. It's almost like when I finally laid everything down and said, you have it, I don't want it.
Yeah.
It's your will. It's not mine.
Yeah.
I'll quit trying to control it. And like it took me a couple months to really get like firm in it.
Yeah.
But it was always an upward. It wasn't really up and down as much. It was kind of like up and just like slowly progressing.
Like steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I can sit here and just be like, I'm okay. Like I don't try to control it. If I have a decision to make, I pray about it, and God typically gives me the answer and points me in the right direction. It's almost like I don't walk with I walk by faith now, not by sight.
You know, one of the things I think is so fantastic is when you finally submitted all of that, as we kind of wrap up, but when you finally submitted all that, I'm talking like Landon, it was an immediate change. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, I know people find that hard to believe, but you've been working towards it on your own. Mm-hmm. And then finally when you're like, God, I give up. Like, and you told me that too, like you give up, like, you know, and it doesn't mean you're perfect. Like there's none of us that are perfect. Like you still mess up, right? I still mess up. You know Christ, He saved you and changed you. It's been a journey to get to this place of peace or anxiety. And I think one of the I got to tell this story. And I'll leave out the stuff that you can fill it in or not. I don't care, but I know. And me and you've grown close. Mm-hmm. We spent a lot of time talking, communicating, texting, whatever it might be. But there was one thing just still hanging from this journey in 4 years, and you're like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, man, I don't know what to do either. We were praying about it, and we felt like, you know, you felt like, I think God wants me to do this. Yeah. And all I said was, well, man, if you don't try, you'll never know. Yeah. Like, I'd rather live with knowing than the regret of not knowing. Mm-hmm. And you text me one day after work, and you said, hey, can I call you? And I was like, sure. Mm-hmm. And I had COVID. You remember this? Yeah. And I couldn't talk good. My throat was all closed up, and I called you. And you said you had to make a phone call in the middle of the afternoon, and it was raining. Yeah. Remember? And this is so funny. I hope people can visualize this. Mm-hmm. Now, you're doing good. You're at peace. Yeah. You're thriving. Mm-hmm. You're getting your feet under you. Mm-hmm. In this same time frame, God has taken you from the chemical engineer that chose chemical engineering because you had taken AP chemistry class, and we started this off by you saying, it's boring. Yeah. You're still going to do that and get your degree, but He's also planted a seed in your heart to some way give back. That may be in counseling in the future, helping people that were right where you were, and you have this inviting nature to you, and you've got this joy about you. I saw you out there. You were a one-man wrecking crew in our wiffle ball tournament out there. It was awesome, laughing. You told me after that day, you were like, I really just had fun today. Like, and you know it, right? Mm-hmm. But this one thing was hanging. We had to just clean it up. And so you were optimistic about the phone call. Mm-hmm. Like, I think this is what God wants. You made the phone call. No. It did not go according to plan. And it was raining. And you had to step outside of your building to make this phone call. Yeah. And you got caught in a torrential downpour. Yeah. And you said to me, and I laughed at you, you said, I was standing in a torrential downpour. The phone call didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. I walked back in the building. I was dripping wet. You were like, I look like the worst, saddest character on a movie. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I think it encapsulates that picture. And funny part, you walked in drenched, looking like you were like the guy that got left at the altar on Hallmark movies. Yeah. And you had joy in your heart because you knew. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But that picture of you was like 4 years worth of coming. Like that's who you were really. Mm-hmm. You were the guy in the rain the whole time. And now you are the guy in the rain, but you're happy because God's doing things in your life. What would you say to people that find themselves in your place now that you're on the other side?
I think I'd tell them that there's really only one way. That like you can try to run, and like there's this song lyric, and it's Zach Bryan. It's not even a Christian song. It's
all right. I like him.
But we always turn into everything we're running from.
We always turn into everything we're running from. That's good.
And I ran from like the hurt of people hurting me, and like hurt people do hurt people.
They do. Yeah.
And I never really, my therapist used to say it to me that I used to go to. Not you, the other one I would go to too.
Yeah, the smart one.
But I never realized that I was the hurt person hurting people my whole life. And
And that's so good.
Yeah, it's just like if you run from that hurt, you're going to become it. And then you're exactly who put you there. Or like what put you there. That's who you are. And there's only one way. And it's so hard to do. It is. It genuinely is. But like once you just give it up, there's peace. And like I dealt with anxiety and depression. I've took medicine for it. And the medicine, don't get me wrong, it worked. It numbed me. But the only way is giving it to God. And like people say that, and like you sit there. I remember when people tell me that when I was thinking, I was like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
But now that like I'm sitting here, it's like it's the only way. There's only one way.
I'm not even going to try to improve upon that. That is, I think that's the best way to end this conversation and inspire others. I want to say this to you, Landon. I am so proud of you, and I'm so proud of the man that you're becoming and that you are today. I've seen you go from the man that was hidden in a closet, thinking about taking his life, and I would say to all those that have heard that, about that, man, reach out. There are people that love you, that care about you. Call us, call somebody. Don't sit alone, because there's people that want to hear how you feel. And you've inspired so many, but you've become a leader of your family. You've become a leader in our community. You've become a leader at your school. You're an absolutely wonderful picture of God's grace, and your future's bright. And you're not going to get out of this thing unscathed. You're 21, plenty more years to mess up.
Yeah.
But what you have now, no one can take from you, and that is the anchor. You know, your parents did a good job. The Bible says this. It says, train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they're old, it will not depart from them. And what you gave us today is gold. Jesus Christ has never departed from you. So I want to thank you for sharing your story of grace. I want to thank you for telling us your tale from the other side. And I hope it inspires others, man. I love you, my friend.
Love you too.
All right. This has been Tales from the Other Side. Check us out next week with more stories of grace.